you will note that we have done quite a bit, specifically to ensure that we enable the way we do business in Belize. 5 years ago, when Honorable John Briceño became the Prime Minister of this country, he said, I want to keep things simple, make things easy for our foreign investors, our local investors, and our people. And that has been the focus of the Ministry of E-Governance. Which one? And so, over the years, we have noticed that there has been consistent challenges as it relates to the mindset. And yesterday, one of the presenters mentioned that one of the biggest obstacles that we will see as we try to transform the way we do business anywhere in the world is really the mindset. However, as a government of Belize, we have made decisive steps to modernize our digital ecosystem through strategic approach that combine policy reform, capacity building, and investment incentives. And so I would like to take the opportunity to go over a brief history, the visionary leadership of our current government under the leadership of Honorable John Briceño planted the creation of the e-governance and digitalization unit 5 years ago. That was in November of 2020. By mid-2023, through the enactment of legislation, the Digital Government Act, the unit transformed into a department with a more organized organizational structure and establishment of specific expertise to ensure that we are able to not only sustain, but to also create the opportunity as it relates to digitization within the public sector. On March of 2025, the establishment of the Ministry of E-Governance, we can clearly see that there is political will and progressive thinking within the public sector and the government of Belize for the creation of the Ministry of E-Governance, mandating digital transformation within the public sector in terms of how we provide services to our people of Belize. We have managed to establish fundamentally laws, legislation, or bills that create a catalyst for digital transformation in Belize. Prior to 5 years ago, an electronic or digital signature was not valid in Belize. Now we speak about digital invoicing. Now we speak about creation of or using your emails as a digital evidence for any transaction that you do now. But apart from legislation, we have managed to create strategic documents that guide us in how we propel digital transformation in Belize. However, guidance is not enough. We need to create strategic enablers that allow us to achieve specific objectives. For example, modernization of government processes and services, enhancement of digital infrastructure and interoperability. And yesterday we heard Minister Koyi speaking about not only physical infrastructure, but also digital infrastructure. And now, in this era, we speak about interoperability. How do we now connect all databases within the public sector and even interfacing with the private sector to ensure that we have smooth exchange of data? Of course, using the legislation as the background. How do we use now the Data Protection Act? How do we now use as a guidance the Public Sector Data Sharing Act to be able to transact information across different platforms? And of course, from a public service standpoint, how do we boost operational efficiency and automation? I will be mentioning several projects that have been done over the past years, and of course, I give full credit to my colleagues and to the different statutory bodies that are represented here on the screen today. For example, the Belize Companies and Corporate Affairs Registry. They, present today, have won international awards because of the creation of the registry. They have managed to merge both the local and international registries, making registration of any company or a company name very easy here in Belize. And I would go further to stating that they have managed to reduce the processing time. In the past, they used to get approximately 25 applications, and it used to take them somewhere between 7 to 10 days to process. Now they're processing these applications within 2 or 3 days. So it increases the efficiency, and it also establishes clear transparency and less subjective to the process. When we look at IRIS, the Integrated Revenue Information System, under the Belize Tax Services, they have done an amazing job. And if I quote the Belize Chamber of Commerce and Industry, who has reported that IRIS has simplified tax-related services, increased predictability and reliability, and promoted greater efficiency in government operations. And in fact, this is what we aim to achieve. When we look also at what the Ministry of Rural Transformation has accomplished, and this is most recently, the Temporary Employment Permit System. This allows employers to import expertise from their offices. They can make the application for these permits online. They can also, and most recently launched by the Ministry of Rural Transformation, online payments. They can now, or your employer can now make payments online, which also adds on to the ease of doing business in Belize. Further to these, or to those applications that have been created, we have kept the ball rolling as it relates to what other services we have been doing. As we know here in Belize, the Criminal Records Registry, or commonly known as your police record, is highly used almost for any transaction you want to do in Belize. You want to apply for a job, you need your police record. You want to do any transaction, almost any transaction in Belize, you need to have your police record available. And now you have it available online. You can apply for your police record online, and you can make that payment online also. Other projects that we're looking at is the Safe City Camera Project. Citizen safety is a priority for the government of Belize. Hence the reason we have taken the initiative to proceed with the Safe City Camera Project. And of course, I'm hoping that when you landed in Belize, you actually use the iDeclare electronic form. I know it is not pushed as aggressively as we would like it to be, but now foreign travelers and even local travelers can use the iDeclare to proceed and make your immigration and customs declaration form upon landing in Belize, or 30 days prior to traveling to Belize. I go back to highlighting what the Belize Tax Service has done. When we look at collections for taxes in Belize, over 90% of those taxes are now done online. Over 90% of the filing is now done online, which is very good. We look at the compliance ratio now. It is very high as it relates to Belize Tax Services. For me, this is the highlight. People are expecting, or citizens are expecting, to be able to apply for birth paper, for a birth record, or any life event online. We have been working on this project for the past 3 years, I would say, and we are very close to a launch. And I'm hoping that in October of this year, we're able to launch the Civil Registry and Vital Statistics System. The only pending item here is for legislation to be passed through the House, and we would be able to launch this application. The national rollout of the national ID. That has been announced a couple of weeks or some weeks ago. And we have gotten some feedback as it relates to the reasons why do we need a national ID. And just yesterday we heard in one of the panel discussion that the banking sector is now preparing to provide loans through online applications. How do they authenticate that person is the real person making that application? This is where the private sector is now clamoring for an authentication system that enables them to really ensure that the applicant is the person who is applying. And the only way we can achieve that is through biometric information. Biometric information is unique to every citizen of Belize and every person. But when we look at architecture, when we talk about network development, process flows, re-engineering of process flows, and so on, we need to ensure that we're speaking a language that is sustainable for our young people, that we are able to maintain these systems as technical individuals within Belize. And I know today I can see some technical persons in the house. But as a government, we are using different platforms to reach out to our young people or even anyone who wants to learn about these technical concepts and how to proceed with them. We have the 501 Academy that focuses on the educational sector. We also have the e-governance academy, which I must give kudos to the director of e-governance for pushing hard for the creation of the e-governance academy, which focuses precisely on ICT certifications. We got approximately 500 scholarships from the World Bank for individuals of all ages to be able to do certification courses in ICT-related courses. That is where we're focusing it. But the reality is that you can get a certificate on any topic you want. On Coursera, you have about 14,000 possible courses that you can take. But fundamentally, what we want as a Ministry of E-Governance is for everyone to take change management and the basics of cybersecurity. And there's a reason for that. The reason for that is because we need to ensure that we change the mindset of our public servants, the public sector, and also the private sector. We need to ensure that we understand the reasons why we need to go digital. It's not because as a government we want to go, but it is a necessity. We cannot be left behind. So when we speak about digital transformation, we must make reference to the digital public infrastructure. This is what sets precedents in terms of how do we move forward and what building blocks do we need fundamentally to be able to grow vertically and thereafter horizontally. This is our vision for the next 5 years. And maybe I'm preempting the revision of the National Digital Agenda, but in essence, this is what is needed. Earlier, we made mention about the single trade and investment window. Here, we make reference to the e-government portal that should act as the gateway to government services. As you can see here, we have the portal, which provides access to almost all services government has to offer, and even how we interface with the private sector. We also have how we authenticate your login to the platform. And we also have how you make payments. Now, to be able to achieve this vision, it is obvious that we need stakeholder collaboration. We, as the Ministry of E-Governance, cannot do it alone. We need the support of all stakeholders, all the government of Belize, all the ministries and the private sector to be able to achieve this. One of the most difficult challenges that we have managed to see is that we tend to work in silos. The Prime Minister has given us the instruction. We need to break down the silos. We need to start thinking end to end. How do we now provide services end to end? meaning that today you don't only need to go, if I use the business registry to apply and register a company, but how do you use that information to proceed and apply for your tax identification number? And the rest follows. We need to think about the once only concept, where we enter one information, one parameter, and the information is pulled from different databases. Of course, always thinking about the Public Sector Data Sharing Act and the Data Protection Act. We cannot share more than what is required. It's always about sharing what is necessary for the services you're applying for. And of course, with digital transformation comes great responsibility. We need to ensure that we are able to protect that information wherever it lives. So part of our mandate is also cybersecurity. We need to ensure that we follow all the encryption protocols or all the standard cybersecurity standards that are out there. We are currently revising our cybersecurity strategy. Thereafter, we will be able to work on our national cybersecurity framework. But these are the frameworks that are important. Today, I must highlight my colleagues at the Central Information and Technology Office for doing an excellent job in safekeeping government data. They are ISO certified, and they also have a security operations center that keep monitoring all the hits that the network gets. Now, how do we progress? I know the previous slide had an AI icon at the bottom. It is important for us that from a cybersecurity standpoint, we also implement AI. We don't only need AI in the banking sector, but we need AI in terms of interpreting data because of the millions of packets that hit the network on all networks. So in moving forward, we need to ensure that we are able to protect our network and establish trust with our networks. Our primary function is not only to transform our services, but also build confidence, ensure that the wider population trust the government of Belize in terms of the data we're hosting and the services we're providing. So with that, I say thank you. And we're open to any questions you may have, or if you require further information, please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you so much.